Sometimes a DLC gets released and it has either the feeling that it's been ripped from the main game and being sold back to you, or it doesn't add anything of new, of value to a game and doesn't really like push a boundary on something. And I recently picked up Megaquarium, Freshwater Frenzy DLC in the November PSN sale, and the beauty of this DLC is that it really showcases, particularly for a tycoon or a builder style game where strategy's involved, what a piece of DLC can really add to a game to give it a fresh lick of paint and a refreshment just across the board. I reviewed Megaquarium back a couple of years ago and gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a business light game where it's less around the actual patrons coming to your aquarium and spending dosh, but more around how you set out all of the different tanks, what habitat you put inside, what type of fish you put inside, how you can feed them, what's the water temperature, whether or not you're going to put in caves or like greenery, all of that kind of stuff, whether the fish actually like each other and if they're going to kill each other and make the tanks look very sad very quickly. Being able to have staff in means that you can upkeep that aquarium and make sure everything's well fed and well cleaned. But that was as far as Megaquarium went, and it kind of excelled in that I'm giving you a selection of very specific criteria to build out your tanks, but beyond that it's kind of a free-for-all and you can have fun just exploring and designing. With Freshwater Frenzy, it still continues down that path and it's very much on the lighter end of business management and tycoon style stuff, but adding in freshwater animals or freshwater fish and starting to categorise everything by freshwater versus saltwater adds in a really interesting new dynamic, because the two types of fish can't be in the same tank, for example, so it starts to separate out exactly what it is that you're expecting to do with these fish. In addition to that, not only have you still got the cool and tropical temperature of water from the base game, but it's now introduced a pH scale. So this means that some fish will require acidic water, some will prefer neutral, some might prefer alkaline, for example. And so what you're needing to do is to add on additional equipment to get that pH scale right. But if you get it wrong, or if your fish continue to grow and take up more room, that changes the environment of the tank around them, which means the pH scale needs to be rebalanced. So that might mean taking away or putting in specific flora and fauna, or additional apparatus that needs upkeep as you kind of build it around the edge of each tank as you go. In addition to this, it also brings in a breeding mechanic. And the idea behind this is that if you get the perfect environment for a specific set of fish, they will breed, and they'll do it in a variety of different ways. And this is both a blessing and a curse for how you play the game. Because as soon as you get the perfect setting, these fish breed like no one's business, and they'll be scattering eggs and putting it inside caves, for example, or they'll be humping on flat surfaces, depending on what layout and what type of fish that you've got. And then after that, once they've then got their young out, they'll need to, it kind of runs like a percentage game to see whether or not they'll survive. And that's dependent on the other types of predators that are in the tank with you. They might eat them alive. It could be that actually as soon as new babies are entered into the tank, your environment is no longer suitable for the fish that are in there, and you've actually now got overcrowding. People can get or fish can get unhappy. It could be that you've not got enough floor space to be able to put in the cave or the flora and fauna to make something work, and so they might die off that way. It's really, really interesting, because what you then start to do is you want to stop the breeding constantly, because you then end up overcrowded. And then when your visitors see the dead fish, they don't really want to give you science and prestige points, which then unlocks more things for you as you level up your aquarium as you go through the game. So you're kind of like, I need to start sabotaging it slightly so that they're comfy, but not too comfy. They start rumpy pumping. So it's an interesting dichotomy. And what I really like is that the variety of fish that's been added to this specific DLC have loads of different ways of how they go about becoming pregnant or laying eggs, whatever it is that you want to do. In addition to that, the other thing that you get with this DLC is accessories to equip your staff so that they become more efficient. This means that they can wear a tool belt and therefore have the tools of the trade for whether they're repairing something. It could be that they've got a backpack, so that means that they can carry multiple types of food, which is really handy if you're going for quite diverse cultures of fish, alongside maybe some coral reefs or something like that, and they're needing different food requirements. And you've also got 7 new tanks, and this includes ones like feeding tanks, where you can get to stand on platforms over the top of fish as visitors and watch some of the staff feed them, and then that attributes again more science points. There's other things like decorations, plants and posters, particularly some of the ones where you tie up a specific board to a certain tank that then gives people science points to give you because they've learnt about the fish as they wander around the environment. I thought that was all good steps forwards and really cool. The other thing that I noticed as well is that the game seems to have sorted out one of my main annoyances with Megaquarium during the base game, which was as soon as you got to a very big size of an aquarium, the game would crash constantly, as if it was kind of hitting a memory barrier, and that seems to have been solved in this release too. But it's really interesting that by adding in this freshwater, the pH, the breeding, the different types of reptiles such as turtles and crocs, which then require sand tanks, but then you don't necessarily want to put other types of animals in there because they're going to get eaten alive. It really does add on a whole new level to a game that was designed to be quite skin deep. And this adds in an extra layer that is still designed to be very streamlined, but it does that perfect balance of feeling streamlined but gives you options. And that for me makes Megaquarium Freshwater Frenzy a great piece of DLC for a game that I still think is undervalued and underappreciated, particularly if you're looking for short, sharp and sweet like casual building strategy simulator games. Written review over on higherplanegames.com for both Megaquarium and the Freshwater Frenzy DLC. You guys take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.